Hello everyone. This is our ninth lecture, ninth Zoom session. Let me admit the others. Okay. And in this lecture we cover the grammar and writing. Who wants to tell me what we have covered in grammar part? What did we cover in grammar part? Who wants to tell me? What's the lesson about? Ali Hamoud.
The lesson is about
About what?
uh,
I cannot hear you.
grammar and right.
Yeah, but what did we cover in grammar? What did we cover in grammar?
We covered the
What did we cover in grammar? Who knows?
covered
We covered what? Simple present tense. We covered the simple present tense.
that
Yes, we learned when to use the simple present tense. Okay, who wants to tell me when do we use the simple present tense? Sorry. When do we use the simple present tense? We use the simple present tense for different purposes. What are these purposes? Do you still remember? You do not remember? Haven't you watched the video, Marie? Do you have any answer for the question?
The process paragraph.
The process paragraph is in the writing. Yes, we covered the process paragraph in the writing, but in the grammar, the simple present tense. Do you know when do we use the simple present tense or for what purposes?
In the before
Before what?
before oh,
Who knows when do we use the simple present tense? We use the simple present tense for different purposes. First of all, for repeated actions. Repeated actions, actions that we repeat, we always do in the present. Okay? We always do these actions, or we can call them habitual actions. They are like a habit to us. And also for facts. Facts, we mean real information. It could be fact about a person, about an animal, about nature, about life. Also for general truths, when we say general truths, we mean nearly something related to nature or science. Okay? Also in jokes and storytelling, sometimes when you're telling a joke, we use the simple present tense. Or for future events that are scheduled, they are planned. We make a plan to do in the future, so we use for it the simple present tense. Okay? And the last purpose is the stative verbs. Stative verbs, we mean the verbs that do not include actions. They are related to the senses or feelings, for example. Okay? Like hear, taste, feel, like. Okay? All of these are called stative verbs. So these are the purposes behind using the present simple tense. Okay? When we say repeated actions, we mean actions that are happening or never happening. For example, Ner always plays soccer on Tuesday. So every Tuesday, Ner plays soccer. So this is called a repeated action or a habitual action. Okay. Other than the repeated, sorry, before we continue, we have to look at something which called time expressions or frequency adverbs. We say they are time expressions or frequency adverbs. Time expressions, we mean expressions or words that show the time in the present. Okay, show the time in the present. For example, always, generally, frequently, never, often, rarely, okay, seldom, sometimes, usually, every year or every day, every month, every week, once a week, twice a week, okay, twice a year also. All of these are called time expressions or frequency adverbs because they are words that describe the verb or that tell when the verb happened, when the action happened. So that's why we call them frequency adverbs or time expressions. And these words that you see now are used for the simple present tense. Okay? we said facts. What do we mean by facts? We mean that real information, okay? Only real information. For example, she plays football, but she doesn't play tennis. This is real about her. I am a teacher. I teach English, for example. She teaches Arabic. This is a fact, real information, okay? General truths, I said rules about nature or life, okay? And science. For example, the sun sets in the west. This is something we cannot change. This is a truth, okay? The sun sets in the west, or the sun rises from the east. Most babies learn to speak when they are about 2 years old, for example. This is a general truth. Water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. Stative verbs, okay, are the verbs of thinking, believing, sensing, or feeling. Feeling, we mean emotion, like I love, I hate, I want, I wish, I like, okay? I dislike. Mind, the mind we mean, or the thinking, like I agree, I believe, I mean, I know. These are not actions by physical actions. These include actions in the mind, okay? We have to think about them. Appearance, for example, how we appear, we look like, resemble, or seem. All of this called the stative verbs, so we have to use them in the simple present tense. Possession is when you're owning something or others are owning things. This bottle belongs to Ali, for example. This pencil case contains pencils and pens, for example. Okay, all of these are used in the simple present tense. The sensing, like I see, I hear, I taste, I touch, okay? All of these are related to senses, so I have to use the simple present tense. I love lying in bed late on Sunday mornings, for example. I need to know right now. Okay, these are the usage for the simple present tense, okay? Now I have to know how to form the verb in the simple present tense. To form the verb, the affirmative form, the positive form, for example, because there are rules I have to follow when forming the verbs in the simple present tense. And I have to pay attention to one thing, if the subject is singular or plural. If the subject is one, I'm talking about one, or if I'm talking about more than one person or thing in the subject. When I have the subject I, you, we, or they, or the girls, the men, the boys, for example, what must it must take a certain form for the verb. But what about if I have singular subject like he, she, it, the boy, the girl, Jude alone, for example, Ali, Ahmad, for example. Okay? If you notice here, let me annotate. If you notice here, there's nothing beside the verb when I had I, you, we, they. But when I have he, she, or it, I have s beside the verb. You see? So what does this show? When I have a singular subject, I must add s to the verb. But when I have a plural subject, I do not add anything to the verb. For example, here, I play, we read, you clean, they buy. So we do not add anything to the verbs. But if you notice here, he speaks, I added s. She cooks, I added s. It sits, I added an s. So you see, when I have singular subject, I have to add s to the verb. But do all verbs take only s? No. Let's see. If the verb ends with O, CH, SH, SS, X, or Z, we must add ES. Okay? Like go, goes, kiss, kisses, catch, catches, fix, fixes, wash, washes, buzz, buzzes. If the verb ends with a consonant, then Y. Consonant, then Y. Like here in marry. I have consonant R, then Y. What must I do? I cross out the Y and I put I, E, S. Study, studies. Carry, carries. If the verb ends with a vowel, then Y. Vowel, letter, then Y. It could be A, O, E, I don't know, whatever. If it ends with a vowel, then Y, then I just add S. Okay? So just in case I have a verb that ends with a Y, but before the Y I have a consonant letter, I have to cross out the Y and add IES. All of these in case I have a singular subject. But if I have a plural subject, I keep the verb as it is. For example, the men here means plural, many. The men marry. The man, one man, marries. Okay? For example, Ali, Ali studies. Ali is one. Ali studies. But Ali and Jude study. Okay? That's it. This is the rule. Okay, let's skip this exercise. Now I have to move to the negative. When I say negative, I mean not. And it's not happening. We mean it's not happening. So how do I show that the verb is not happening in the simple present tense? I have to use two things. Does not, does not or doesn't, and do not or don't. Okay? So I have to use does not or do not. If you notice here, does, I have ES since it ends with O, so I know directly that I use does not for the singular subjects and don't for the plural subjects. Okay? But in case I have the verb to be in the present, which is am, is, or are, here there is a different thing I have to do. You'll know what. When I have I, we, you, they, if I have I, we, you, they, or a plural subject, I use don't. You see? I use don't. Then I put the verb without adding anything to the verb. But if I have he, she, it, I have to use doesn't. And I put the verb without adding anything to it. When I use doesn't, I do not add anything to the verb. And when I use don't, I do not add anything to the verb. Okay? For example, you don't speak Arabic. John doesn't speak Italian. You is a plural, so it takes don't. And I do not add anything to the verb. John is singular. We mean one boy. So John doesn't speak. I didn't add anything to the verb. Doesn't speak, because does takes the S from the verb. Okay? But what if I have a verb to be? Sorry. What if I have a verb to be or a model? Model, we call it helping. Sometimes we have like can, might, should before the verb. I just add not after them. So I say I am not. Just. I do not use doesn't or don't. She is not or isn't, for example. Okay? They are not or aren't, for example. Okay? If we have can, we say cannot. I cannot play. I might not study. I should not drink, for example. Okay? Who has an answer? Yes, Amal, what do you want to ask me? Just a second. Let me unmute you, Amal. Okay. Yes, Amal. Amal, what do you want to ask?